At Wind River Resort and Casino, we like to celebrate life's little moments. Oh, and the big ones too, because around here, when you're completely in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Come in and find your moment at Wind River Resort and Casino.
All right, we should be up. Ay, ay, ay. We'll get there. All right, thank you, Tracy, for letting everybody know and letting me know, because if I hadn't seen your no sound, I would have just kept going. All right, so as I was saying, it is Tuesday, May 14th. I'm assuming we have sound at this point. I'm going to go ahead and just double check. Yeah. Okay. There's a bit of a delay in the feed here. All right. Okay. So again, as I was saying, it is Tuesday, May 14th. And yesterday was warm. Today is going to be warmer. Tomorrow will be even warmer. Tomorrow's the peak of the warming trend. But the good news is after tomorrow, our temperatures for most of us are going to start to drop. When I say that, there's going to be a little bit of a spike for some of those higher elevations on Thursday. But after that, boy, those temperatures really start to plummet, and especially by the end of the weekend and beginning of next week. And you'll see that here when we kind of get in that forecast here. But it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. I'm loving it. It's going to be great. We've just got to get through these first few days. All right, let's get you to the forecast. But before we do that, I want to remind you that, of course, the Reading Rodeo, they've got events going on this week, but the first Reading Rodeo itself will be on Wednesday. Now, as I mentioned the last few days, get your tickets now, because they're going to be sold out before you know it. And I just got word from the Reading Rodeo Association that they have sold out for Friday and Saturday. They've got a full stand. That's awesome. That's great news to hear. But there are still tickets available for Wednesday and Thursday. So if you want to go get those tickets, get them now at readingrodeo.com. And by the way, I emailed all of you that won the tickets. I actually was over at the Reading Rodeo grounds yesterday. I was able to drop all of your tickets off at the ticket booth, okay? So you go to the ticket booth the night that you have them reserved. We all communicated. You all know who you are, who won, and what nights that you have. All you got to do is go there. You could go there today or whatever day it is, even before your day starts, and go pick up your tickets. You just tell them your name, and they will have them for you. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that. But of course, I emailed you all that as well. So, yeah, you can also call the box office at area code 530-241-8559. All right, let's get to the forecast now. Get you out the door this morning. It's a mild start to the day. I mean, 8 o'clock this morning, we're mainly in the 50s. The North Coast, a little foggy this morning. Visibility is down. Not a ton of low clouds. But let's take a look at the camera, for example. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing some of those clouds kind of lingering. This is out at just north of Trinidad. But you can see that there are still some kind of overcast skies there. So we're going to start the morning off with those overcast skies on the North Coast. But I think we're going to see some clearing, even for places like Eureka, but especially towards northern Humboldt and Crescent City and Delnor County as well, and not to mention southern Humboldt. Otherwise, mainly sunny skies elsewhere for this morning and going through the afternoon. So there's some of the visibility. Again, we're down about 2 mile visibility. So not really looking at super low visibility and those super low clouds, but they're kind of that gray skies to start off the day for many of you along the coast. But that, again, could change here later on this afternoon. Here are your temperatures out there right now. It's still pretty mild. 63 degrees for Redding and Chico, upper 50s for places like Willows, 62 in Red Bluff. But, I mean, really, one of the colder spots this morning right now is in Chester at 37. Otherwise, you're mainly in the 40s and 50s for the higher elevations at the current hour. Now, there are some clouds to our north. Those clouds are shifting southward a little bit. So, yeah, we've got some of those high clouds out there this morning. Even looking outside in the valley, there are a couple of those high clouds. That'll be the case this morning, but for the most part, we have got plenty of sunshine throughout the day. Now, there you can see that on Futurecast by noon. Now, look at some of the low clouds and the fog along the coast. It's kind of clearing out a little bit, but especially around Humboldt, around just kind of in southern Eureka, you can see some of the fog that kind of may linger around some areas along the coast. So not everyone will be entirely sunny all day, but I do expect to see more sunshine for the coast. And there are some clouds moving in, or should I say developing, through the afternoon in the higher elevations. So some puffy cumulus clouds, maybe a stray sprinkle or light shower in Plumas County, but that's about it. Some of that fog kind of lingering into tonight for some of those inland areas, especially south of Eureka. But look at those high temperatures today that we saw yesterday, actually. These are the temperatures from yesterday. And it's getting warmer. Now, Chico only got up to about 88 degrees, but you head up towards places like Redding, about 92 degrees for Oroville, and upper 70s and even low 80s. I got to check those temperatures for Susanville. I need to double check those again. That's probably, that can't be right. But here's your temperature for today, mid 90s. For the valley. So yeah, we're going to kind of tack on a few degrees from what we saw yesterday for most locations. I mean, look at Hayfork, look at Weaverville. You're going to be up to about 90, could even get up to about 91, 92. Ruth, a little bit cooler to the south at 85. And there you can see along the coast, we're inching closer to that 70-degree mark, which I think we'll see tomorrow for the coast. So it's getting warmer there as well. Here's your 7-day outlook for the valley. So tomorrow's the peak. And remember yesterday I had 100 degrees in there for Redding and Red Bluff? Yes, I did. I decided to shave off a temperature from that. Now here's the thing. Tomorrow is going to be the warmest of the day, of the week. If we get up to 100 degrees, don't be surprised. We're splitting hairs. You get the idea. Tomorrow's the hottest day of the week. Temperatures dropping after that. We're back down to the 80s by the second half of the weekend and early next week. Your 7-day outlook for the coast, inland, and for Trinity County. Well, yeah, now we're talking temperatures warming up there as well. Now, as I mentioned, it's around Wednesday, Thursday, but you can see temperatures inland and even Weaverville starting to see those temperatures drop back down into the 80s for Weaverville by the time we do get into the weekend. Looking at your 7-day outlook for Siskiyou County, Modoc, and Susanville, of course, Eastern Mountains in general. Temperatures, again, they may peak for some of the mountain locations on Thursday, actually, but then dropping again as we go into the weekend. All right, today is Tuesday, and we are starting the morning off. Looks like, well, someone getting a porta potty off somewhere, or maybe picking one up. But there is a look at a live shot from our Chico cam. This is out from Caltrans on Highway 32 on Main Street. We take you up to Highway 99 at Neal Road. Got some traffic out there as well. But looks like we've got the clear skies out there this morning. Just going to take a look at the camera out at Sundial Bridge. Unfortunately, not a moving camera, but a camera nonetheless to help give us an idea what's going on out there. Of course, we've got the sunny skies to start off the day there. There's a look at Lake Oroville, North Forebay. Looks like the winds are calm this morning. Probably not a bad morning to be on a lake, maybe on a kayak. Don't see anybody out there right now. Looks like a little bit more wind. You can see the water kind of some ripples in the water, if you will, but kind of looking off in the distance there. We do have the mainly sunny skies. Well, typically we have NorCal Ag on Thursday, but today is a special week because, as you know, we have got, excuse me, I had to have some coffee there. We've got Redding Rodeo this week. Now, I had an opportunity to speak to the president of the Redding Rodeo Association. And we were able to talk about a few things. And I was actually going to do one ag report with them. But we were talking and had some really interesting things that we talked about that I thought I'd kind of split it up into two. Now, in the report, I say that we're going to be back on Thursday for the NorCal Ag. I'm actually going to postpone that until Friday. So just kind of keep that, just be aware of that. And I've also kind of put that on the screen there. But there's going to be a NorCal Ag today and then another one on Friday. And what we're going to highlight today is kind of talking about the history of the Reading Rodeo and how it's had an influence on the community and how it's just been a great thing. And then on Friday, we're going to discuss a few more things about how the rodeo in general is associated with agriculture and, you know, farming and ranches and all that good stuff. So let's get you to the NorCal special edition of the NorCal Ag Report, sponsored by Lassen Canyon Nursery. Hello everyone, Mike Krueger from Weather NorCal. This is, well, kind of an unofficial NorCal Ag, sponsored by Lassen Canyon Nursery. You know, we got a whole exciting week going on this week, and it's the Reading Rodeo Week. So you may know this guy. He's the man, the myth, the legend, Bennett Gooch Jr. Hey, so thank you so much for joining me here.
Thanks for coming.
So we're going to kind of do two things here. First, and we'll do the second part a little bit later, but let's talk about the Reading Rodeo.
Yes.
How, you know, it's been going on for 76 years.
Yep.
Let's talk about the history of it. I mean, a lot has gone on over the last 76 years.
A lot of people know the name John Balma. He came back from the war, and they wanted to bring something back to the community after the war and do something big, and they started, it was a stock show rodeo. In 1948, it was a PRCA sanctioned event, and right here, same grounds.
So still kind of a big deal, right?
It is still a big deal, and the community took to it. We've got some pretty old pictures from back in the day of the original buck and shoots, and we use it as the background of our 75th anniversary poster and program book, and it's looking that way across the Civic before anything was built. It was back when they mined the rock for the dam.
Yeah.
And the old shoots is pretty awesome because you can see some of the old trees that are still there today in that photo, and there was a Cadillac pulling a two-horse trailer in the background. I mean, it was.
They have horns on the Cadillac.
Yes,
right?
It was amazing, and you know, this thing's been here in this same spot for so long that it's just a Reading tradition.
That's awesome. Now, we were talking earlier how you've been associated with working with the Reading Rodeo Association. By the way, you're the president.
I am
the president of the Reading Rodeo Association, but you weren't obviously for the last 30 years.
No.
You've been working with the Reading Rodeo for 30 years plus, or about 30 years.
Yep.
A lot has happened, really. That's when most of the growth has really occurred, right?
Yeah, a lot of the stuff you see today has happened in that time period. When I joined, it was just prior to the 50th anniversary, and it was a two-day rodeo, high, sanctioned in the PRCA, pretty high in the standings. There was over 600 rodeos in the PRCA, and we're consistently in the top 25 to 40 rodeos. And so at the time, it's a big rodeo, and it still is. We're still in the top. That's why we're televised on the Cowboy Channel and everything else to go along with it. But we are one of the top rodeos in the nation, and so with that comes with all the contestants and people from all over the country tune in and watch it on TV. And there's not a place I can't go without a Reading Rodeo shirt on that someone wants to talk about it. So it's pretty cool. The world is watching.
So a lot has happened over the last, about 30 years.
Yeah.
We think about moving forward here. What are some of the plans what are some of the visions you have? Let's put it that way.
I think ideally the vision, obviously the fans have made it very clear they do not want this to move. They've been coming here since they were small children with their grandparents, and now they're bringing their children and now grandchildren.
Yeah.
And so many people have come to this event every single year that it's happened, and they sit in the same seats or the same box. They've had them forever, and they don't want to see us move. They don't want it to go to a different location. They're used to it being by the river. That's why it's bucking by the river.
Yeah.
And so my vision is to kind of rebuild it or just renovate it in pieces over time in its original position, but make it nicer for the fans and contestants and everybody that we can, bring it into a modern facility.
And that's awesome, like you say, modernization, and really just kind of utilizing the space here and trying to really pack more people, really, right?
And you want it to be modernized more than anything, just for accessibility and everything else that goes along with it. Ease of making sure everyone's safe and everything has a good time. But you got to preserve some history also. I mean, like in NASCAR, you go to the old school tracks that have been around forever. They haven't brought them up to today's standards, but nobody wants it because they don't want to change history.
Yeah.
And so here it's about a little bit the same. We want to modify it and change it and make it better for everybody, but also make it so that when they come here, they remember this is where they always were.
Well, that's awesome.
It's kind of tough. It's a little fine line of making it perfect for everybody, and I think we've got a plan to do that. We just have to get through this riverfront specific plan and show what we can do here, and we have mechanisms in place to be able to fund this and move forward and make it happen.
Well, high hopes. I wish you nothing but the best of luck here as we do move forward. I wish you nothing but the best of luck as we move forward this week as well. I know you're a very busy man, so I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk with me, and we will be back. Honestly, we're going to do the interview right after this, and we're going to talk about how the rodeo in general is associated with agriculture. So be sure to stick around for that on Thursday. That's all coming up later. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll see you on Thursday for the Ag Report. All right, so I want to thank Bennett Gooch again. We had an interesting situation. We had to actually re-record that, and so I appreciate him taking the time out of his busy day to do 2 interviews with me. We, again, will be highlighting that second interview on Friday for another special edition of the Ag Report. And it's really interesting kind of hearing about how, the rodeo and how it's associated with ranching and farming and how it all kind of works together. So a kind of a neat interview that we had there as well. We'll tell you what, let's get you right to the forecast here. And before we do that, we have got to, of course, mention our sponsor, which is Wind River Resort and Casino. At Wind River Resort and Casino, you can enjoy friendly service, a wide variety of specials and promotions, plus all of your favorite slots and table games. Well, right now we're seeing those temperatures a bit on the mild side here, and those temperatures will continue to, of course, climb here as we take you throughout the day today. 63 degrees right now for Redding, 62 in Red Bluff. Corning, you're sitting at about 56. And I mean, even the higher elevations, we're mainly above 30 or in the 40s, with the exception of Chester right now. You're sitting at about 37 degrees, so that tends to be kind of the cool spot as we start heading up in some of those higher elevations. 41 for El Tourist, 51 degrees out in Susanville, and there you can see Crescent City about 51 degrees. We do have that increased fire danger, and this is something we're going to talk about in a little bit more detail here a little bit later here. But could we see 100 degrees this week? It's not out of the question. I have shaved off a degree or two for some of us for daytime highs tomorrow, and I've kept the triple digits out of the forecast, but barely, all right? We also have Sierra afternoon thunderstorms, which is, we saw some thunderstorms out towards South Lake Tahoe yesterday. We could be looking at more thunderstorms again this afternoon, but again, mainly in the Sierra. We do have a cooling trend, though, and it's going to be much cooler by the time we do get towards the weekend and especially early next week. Some high clouds coming in from the north. That's what you're noticing this morning, especially if you're off towards Modoc County and Siskiyou County. There are some of those high clouds. Those should be moving out here in the next several hours here as we kind of have a bit of a clearing spot. But there's a look at Futurecast. Still a little bit of fog trying to linger around the Eureka area. So if there is some patchy fog there, don't be surprised. But I do expect to see more clearing there and some puffy cumulus clouds and mainly dry conditions for the mountains. Wednesday morning, looking at mainly clear skies, even for the coast, right? But then we go into Wednesday afternoon again. They're around Eureka, maybe north, north around Trinidad area. There still may be some fog even tomorrow afternoon, but I do expect more of that marine layer to intensify as we go into your Thursday, and that is going to, of course, mean more fog out for parts along the coast, maybe a little bit of clearing near Crescent City, but again, we're seeing more of that marine layer. Also, some of those cumulus clouds developing in the mountains, but should stay dry for your Thursday afternoon. All right, we're talking about the elevated fire danger. There's a couple of things that we have to look at. I mean, we're getting to that time of the year where we've got to start focusing on the fire weather, right? Because things are starting to dry out. You may have already noticed, I mean, as I go on my hikes, we've got a lot of the tall grasses, right? And still a lot of green within those grasses. But we're beginning to see more and more of those grasses and the vegetation starting to dry out. So what happens is, as we go through these heat waves early on in the season, and we begin to see more of these north wind events, we've got to pay attention to what that's doing to our available moisture. Now, as it stands right now, the available moisture in our vegetation is still pretty good. So even though a fire can start, and even though a fire can spread, they won't spread as rapidly, and it'll be easier for the firefighters to kind of handle these fires. So yes, we're seeing these fires pop, but we've seen the last few days some fires popping up, but it didn't take long for the firefighters to really kind of get a handle on them. But as we progress into the season, that's going to be few and far between, and especially during these wind events, that's where we start running into problems. So here's what we've got going on right now. For today, we're going to see a bit of a north wind. Now notice we've got gusts possibly upwards of around 20 miles per hour. So you'll probably notice the winds picking up a little bit out of the north for the valley. These brown colors indicating the dry. So we got the dry conditions, okay? So as we go into tomorrow morning, typically in the morning hours, we recover and we start seeing more greens. And we're seeing that around Chico and lighter shades of brown indicating not as dry. So we get a little bit of recovery tomorrow morning. Those winds still from the north, though, as we go into Wednesday. Now, you'll notice around 15, close to 20 miles per hour again, darker shades of brown indicating maybe even drier for your Wednesday. And then, of course, as we go into Thursday, I'm actually going to be looking at more of those winds shifting from the south. So you can see Thursday morning, a nice recovery in those humidity levels. But they will drop again, even though we do have a south wind. But the south wind is good because it's typically not as dry. It doesn't dry things out as much. And you'll notice we're seeing those lighter shades of brown, indicating that the humidity levels won't be quite as low as we go into your Thursday. And of course, there's your typical higher humidity along the coast. There's no big surprises there. So when we look at the fire weather risk, what this does is it takes a look at the temperature, it takes a look at the winds and the humidity out there, kind of a combination of all these things, and kind of categorize it as far as how high that fire weather risk is. So as we go into today, we're mainly in the yellow, so we're kind of in that moderate range here, right? Now as we go into Wednesday, remember I was mentioning we're looking at hotter conditions. This is the hottest day of the week on Wednesday, and the wind's still strong and low humidity. As a result, we're starting to see more oranges on the map, indicating getting into that high category. So we are seeing the fire weather risk get a little bit higher for Wednesday. Again, it's one of the situations, if a fire should start today, tomorrow, or even Thursday, we still have a lot of available moisture within our fuel. So we're doing okay for now. But we just kind of have to think in the back of our minds that conditions will start getting worse and worse in the weeks and the months to come. So we got to start thinking about these things here as things start to dry out. But again, we're seeing less oranges on the map here for Thursday. And again, partially due to the fact that we do expect to see those southerly flow of winds, and it doesn't tend to be as drying, if you will. Now, looking at the temperature trend, and I'm just showing you Redding to kind of show the overall trend across most of Northern California. Keep in mind, this is not what it's going to look like for the coast. I know that, and I'm well aware of that, but this is just going to give you a general idea of what to expect. So today is going to be warm. Tomorrow's the peak for most of us. As I mentioned, the mountains may be just a tad warmer on Thursday than Wednesday, but you get the idea. Temperatures will start to plummet. We're still in the low 90s even through the weekend, so it's still going to be rather warm out there, but we're back in the 80s. In fact, maybe some low to mid 80s by the time we get into early next week. That's near normal. The normal is about 81 degrees out in Redding. So if we can get ourselves back down closer to normal, I think people will be a little bit more happy about it. So this is the big area of high pressure to our west that is giving us the warmer temperatures. But the main bubble of heat is not directly on top of us. If this was right on top of us, we'd probably be up to 100 degrees today or higher, and not to mention tomorrow. So it peaks on Wednesday. You kind of see expands into our area Wednesday. But we have these storms to our north that are right. See how it flattens out? And eventually what that does is it suppresses the heat. So after Wednesday, temperatures start to drop, but you can still see it's pretty warm out there, okay? Then we see that this area of low pressure move to the east. Some cooler air begins to kind of move on in. The heat is still being suppressed and is pushing the main bubble of heat to our west. Some cooler air comes in by the end of the weekend and early next week, and it's really making its presence known in the Pacific Northwest and even us. So that cooler air is beginning to move down, and that's what helps to support those low to mid 80s I was talking about by Monday of next week. And in fact, the Climate Prediction Center is picking up on this, and in the long range, putting us in that cooler than normal category. So I think that's a pretty good deal, right? Now we take a look at the wave heights, and these wave heights are still fairly high for today, and that's why there's a small craft advisory. We take you into your Wednesday, and we're still looking at some fairly high wave heights. In fact, looking at your marine forecast, there is a small craft advisory through this afternoon. I believe, and I have to double check, it may be upgraded eventually to a gale warning going into tomorrow. North winds at 15 to 25 knots, and of course there you can see your high and your low tide for today. All right, speaking of today, let's take a look at your Trinity County, that is, neighborhood forecast. So as I mentioned, I think Trinity County, you'll peak on Wednesday, temperatures gradually dropping. Look at that, by Monday, you're down into the upper 70s. Beautiful, right? 85 for High and Palm today. Hayfork about 90, and Ruth, you'll see high today of about 85 degrees. Here's your North Coast neighborhood forecast, southern Humboldt County. And you can see out towards Redway, topping out close to 90 on Wednesday, tomorrow, and then temperatures start to drop in the 70s by the time you get into the second half of the weekend and early next week. 65 in Ferndale, 70 in Hydesville, Fortuna. You'll see a high of about 68 degrees. Let's take you up north. You can see out towards McKinleyville, a high of 68. Hoopa, look at that. You're peaking on Wednesday as well. Temperatures do start to drop. We're down to the upper 70s by Monday of next week. And for the North Coast, Smith River, 82 degrees. Now, Crescent City, you'll get up to 68 today. Tomorrow, you all actually warm up as well, 71, and the temperatures drop at kind of just leveling out into the mid-60s through the weekend. It may be cooler by next Monday with a high of about 61. Your Siskiyou County neighborhood forecast, you can see those temperatures are, again, remember I was talking about some of the mountains. We'll probably peak a little bit here for Wednesday and Thursday, but then temperatures dropping down into the 70s by the weekend. Scott Valley, a high of 81 for Etna, 82 in Callahan, 79 for Fort Jones and Greenview, a high of about 82 degrees. 76 degrees for McDowell, 77 for Tule Lake. Again, there's that peak Wednesday, Thursday. Temperatures dropping into the 70s by the weekend and early next week. How about Modoc County neighborhood forecast? Mainly in the 70s today. Some of us could touch 80. I think we could touch 80 in El Turris, maybe Canby, California Pines, as well as Likely. 76 degrees for Fort Bidwell, though, and 75 for Cedarville. Again, you can see Thursday a bit of a peak there, but then we start to kind of plummet back down to the 70s. All right, there's a look at your Eastern Mountains neighborhood forecast. 82 for Bernie, and Bernie, you'll probably peak around Thursday as well, dropping back down to the 70s by Saturday and Sunday. Here's a look at your Lake Almanor, Lassen Park forecast. It's still, it's getting warmer too, even in the mountains. I mean, we're up to 72 degrees in Manzanita Lake, 65 for Summit Lake and Chester. You'll top out at about 81 degrees today. Here's your Eastern Mountains neighborhood forecast to the south, and this is looking at Paradise and Susanville with your 7-day outlook there. Now, Paradise, you'll probably peak on Wednesday, but look at Susanville. You'll peak on Thursday, the high of about 89, and the temperature starts to drop again, and we're in the mid to upper 70s for Sunday and Monday. Here's your Valley neighborhood forecast, and brought to you by NorCal Tractor. Those temperatures are going to be in the mid-90s. 96 for Willows, as well as Durham, 95 for Red Bluff, and look for a high of about 95 degrees for Los Molinos. Chico, I've got you up to 99 degrees on Wednesday. Here's your Valley neighborhood forecast for the north. Red Bluff, you're up to about 99. 94 degrees for the city of Shasta Lake and 94 degrees in Palisadro. Here's your 7-day outlook for Redding, up to 99. Now again, some of us could touch 100. I mean, listen, that's not out of the question. We take you to Thursday, we're about 93 degrees. Temperatures continue to drop. We're in the 80s by the time we do get into your Sunday and Monday. So this heat, it's not going to stick around forever. So that certainly is some very good news, I think, for a lot of people as we start to see these temperatures begin to drop. But what we do have to be mindful of is the fire danger. We've got to watch for that. Again, I discussed it earlier. Everything seems to be okay now. Looking at the fuels out there. The fuels are basically the vegetation, right? When you see the tall grasses and all that. When they're still green, we got the moisture content in there. But we're going to start seeing those green vegetations turn more and more brown and drier. And we're already starting to see that in some areas here, kind of mixed in with the green and the dry grasses. So we're starting to see more and more of that. But the good news is there still is some available moisture in the fuels, right? The grasses. So if a fire should start, and we've seen some start already, but once the firefighters get on scene, they can usually get a handle on it pretty quickly because of the available moisture. And we haven't seen any major wind events either. That really does help. So the north winds today and tomorrow and the heat, the combination of the two, what that does is it starts setting the stage for our fire season. You hear so many times that, every year is going to be a bad year fire reason, right? If it's a dry winter, then typically what happens is, if it's a dry winter, we see the fire season start earlier. However, when we have a wet winter, it takes longer for those fuels to dry out, and our fire season kind of starts a little bit later as a result. At least the more dangerous fire part of the season, right? So that's when we start seeing more and more of those fires kind of mid to late summer, even going into fall, when we start seeing, even sometimes going well into October, and some years even into November. I mean, it can get really bad. So it seems like it just kind of gets worse. But these are all things that we'll tackle all of that, and as we kind of get into the season. But definitely a lot of things to start thinking about. This time of the year, mow your lawn in the morning, mow your lawn in the evening near sunset. Never mow your lawn when it's windy, right? All those things to kind of think about. Let's see here. Let's say good morning to everybody. I didn't get really a chance to do that with everybody. Good morning, Tracy, Don, and Dizzy saying, there, we got the mic on. We got Tracy, Dizzy did saying, good morning, beautiful people. Saying good morning to all of you, beautiful people. Frank, how you doing this morning? Frank saying good morning from foggy, drizzly Monterey. Gilbert Burns, how you doing? Good morning. Jackie Dixon. We've got Kim Burns saying, did a great with the Trinity Lake forecast last week. Great day. Minimum wind. How's Shasta Lake winds going to be like tomorrow? Tomorrow, Shasta Lake winds are going to probably be picking up. I'm expecting those gusts upwards of around 20 miles per hour for parts of the valley. But of course, as you get into the lake, it might even be a little bit higher than that. For fun, I'm going to check a website, and I'll kind of do this with you here. But before I do that, let's do this. Go into the models here. There we go. This is kind of I like this, this one right here. So we go, this really does kind of help give us an idea what the winds are doing. And yeah, I mean, as we go into Wednesday, this is at about 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. If you look closely, you can see kind of where it's kind of hard to see, but I am seeing some winds there that are kind of picking up. This is for Wednesday. This is why we have the higher fire danger, but those winds will also be, looks like, fairly strong even for Shasta Lake as well. So yeah, probably a little windy, a little gusty out there. Let's take a look at, oops, I'm looking at the wrong, the northwest quadrant. There we go. But the winds do die down, looks like, by Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday. So it's going to be, I think the winds will be strongest probably in the morning, midday hours, and then those winds start to kind of die down a little bit here. So that should hopefully answer your question. But yes, the winds are picking up today and tomorrow for the lake, for Shasta Lake, or Lake Shasta. Good morning, everyone, from Anthony. Winter straight to summer. Yes. Good morning, Mike, from Ruth. Lynn Jones saying, it's going to be a great day. That's a great way of looking at it. That's a great attitude. I love attitudes like that. That's always fun. Let's take a look at your cameras out there as we kind of wrap up the show. I want to thank everyone for tuning in this morning and getting ready to enjoy a hot summer day. Oh, yeah, it's not officially summer yet. It's going to feel like summer, though. And there is a look at Trinidad. That's a nice place to cool off. Not so hot there, is it? Looking at absolutely gorgeous weather for many of those locations here. So let's take a look at those cameras, wrap up the day, and we will see you tomorrow morning on Coffee with Krueger starting at 7 a.m.